Well, there's almost no turning back now. I removed the front clip to make everything easier. I'll probably actually give this thing a bath, but I got 2 bolts left in the transmission cross member. The nuts are already off the top of the engine mounts. I'm about out of batteries, so let's switch batteries and you guys can watch me either pull this or drop it on the ground and cry. So I forgot to hit record, but it's out. The whole thing's out. I apologize, but it was interesting. You get an idea how small that Volkswagen engine is. I mean, it's just little bitty. But I spoke to the previous owner. He might run it back. If he doesn't want it back or we can't come to an agreement on, shipping and stuff, I have an idea to donate it. Now, again, the bummer is I've never driven this Jeep. So I'm going to just assume that the transmission's fine. Nah, seriously, there ain't too much that goes wrong in a manual. And if it's broke, then we'll fix it again. But I am going to change the brake line going back. And we are going to upgrade to a cable shifter. I made up my mind once I seen, like, this doesn't look real bad, but the adjuster and everything underneath there looks pretty rough. And if I'm going to do it, this would be the easiest time to do it. It'd be the easiest time to actually get all that stuff, mounted and installed. But what I'm going to do today is honestly clean up and then contemplate. I got to whack that off and that off. And I don't think I'm going to get too carried away with how great it looks. I'm just going to concentrate on getting them up. Oh, and I might paint that firewall too, because it looks pretty rough. But for the most part, my whole garage is an absolute abject disaster. I mean, abject disaster. I have stuff everywhere. I even have pieces of the garage in here. Yeah, that came loose and came off. We're going to clean that thing out too. I'm contemplating painting this too. I don't know. I kind of like the rough look. But at the same fact is, maybe, maybe it could use a little gussying up. You know what I mean? We'll see. We'll see how far I get. Either way, first things first. Let's clean this pigsty. In case you're wondering, painting your firewall, spraying down your brake lines with oil clean, or excuse me, PB Blaster, painting your battery tray, and then your skid plate, at least the inside of it, is definitely a better way to spend your time than actually doing what you came out to the garage to do in the first place, which is clean up. I really don't want to do this, but alright. But anyway, yeah, I wasn't going for perfect with the firewall. I just wanted something, I don't know, it just looked, the green just looked really dingy to me, and this was quick and easy. And I knew if I tried to paint it green again, it would just look like crap. The things I do. So, I got sick. I was down for a whole day. I didn't work at all on the go-kart, at all on the Jeep. Well, actually, I was down for a whole week. Excuse me. I was down in bed for a whole day. But overall, I was down for a week. So today was the first day I get back on it. And one thing, when I got the engine and trans out, and this is why I didn't film any of it, because it doesn't make for great film, video stuff, is I noticed the brake line going back was looking a little rough. And I thought, well, no time like the present with no engine and transmission than to put in a new nickel copper line. It'll never rust. Never have to worry about it again. Then I got to looking at the ones on the back axle, this being the long side, and yeah, that's why our brakes didn't work so good when we offloaded it. But I mean, this sucker's yeah, into there. So I replaced all those. That was today's project. I did get the battery box painted, firewall painted. I don't know if I showed that in the last video. It's been a while. And, you know, I've been half comatose. Good news is, it wasn't COVID, but... Oop, looks like my brakes are bled. I'm going to have to shut my bleeders off. Or at least that side on anyway. But what I also did was, I put me... I guess frame's pretty good. But I put me some drain holes, because, I mean, you can't do it, but if you go, like, in here to one of these, I mean, this frame's completely full. Yeah, I have to tighten that back down. Alright. I'm going to pull this out, give it a bath, get rid of this forever, because we're not going to use any of that. And, we'll see what we get into tomorrow. Might be the go-kart, might be this. Who knows? But for right now, I'm going to drag it outside and give it a wash. So I separated the old engine and the transmission yesterday. And lo and behold, somebody used a grinder on the input shaft. So that's no bueno. So we're going to get a new one. Here we go. This is what you get on a road trip with an almost teenager.
Hello.
Seated in the seat, as awkwardly comfortable as possible, with the phone less than 4 inches from his nose. The pre-teenager in his natural habitat during a road trip. Short road trip today, right, George?
Yeah.
We're just going to Somerset, and we're going to get us another transmission.
Yeah. Transmission.
Hopefully make up for the sins of all the things that have happened to our diesel Jeep.
Yes. Spaghetti.
Something like that. Alright, we'll check in a little bit. Only about an hour drive. What we got, George?
Transmission.
And a transfer case. Right?
Yes.
That's what George does on road trips. He's conscious for a little bit and then unconscious for a while. Anyway, we'll catch up. We got a little bit of a drive to go home. And, you know, maybe we'll stop at a local fast food establishment that may or may not serve Big Macs.
May or may not.
Alright, after my magical new transmission purchase, we're going to be, we're going to be doing an NV3550 swap along with some form of a slightly different transfer case. I'm not sure if this is a better one or not. You can try letting me know, but odds are that it'll already be in the Jeep by that point. But realistically, swapping the transfer case later isn't a horrible idea. So over there I have a Novak transmission adapter bell housing for a GM transmission. Yeah, there's the adapter for a GM style transmission that should bolt to this, and that's what kind of bell housing adapter we have on our Cummins. Now here's the plan for today. I've been doing stuff. I haven't actually just taken the morning off. I moved the wiring harness mostly out of the way as best as I can for right now. And what I'm going to try to do... Oh, I've also removed the exhaust. I painted that, but that's for the go-kart. What we're going to do is we're going to get this mated up to the engine. So I got to take that bell housing off, put the Novak adapter and the GM bell housing on along with the clutch fork and shifter assembly, and then we're going to pick it up. And I think in order to get the reach, I'll try it at the... Oh, hold on. Right there's a 1/2 ton, so it's rated to lift 1,000 pounds here, but that Cummins engine's at least 800. So I think there's slightly more than 200 here. So we're gonna try at the 1 ton setting, all right, first. But I don't know if that's gonna reach the whole way into the Jeep. So what I plan to do is roll the Jeep. Well, we'll get to that. But we're gonna set it in there. I'll bring the adapter plate in, the skid plate, and what we want to do is get the transmission bolted up and get everything set to where it's going to live, and then clean up and weld in the mounts. And then we're going to have to lift and pull the whole kit and caboodle back out, set it back on the ground while I fully weld in everything else, and hopefully then we can clean this up, slap a little paint on it so it don't rust, and then stab everything back in for the final time. There's 1 or 2 other things I'm going to do while I have it out. Like I said, I already did the brake lines, but I'm also... there's that box, which you might be able to make out my address. Wait, there, you can't make out my address. No, I really don't care. Come visit me. We're going to put the B&M cable shifter on that transfer case so that it fits up kind of nice, and, you know, get rid of most of this rusty junk that somebody already started to cut on. I had to hit that with some PB Blaster while it's sitting there. I think I'll do that here in a minute, but that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Sucker goes on there, and it looks like he said I have to chop this off, and I think it's gonna have to be just about flush. All right. So I just nicked the shaft. It'll be alright. Alright, I'm going to get some brake clean this up. Clean this up. Everything looks good. I don't see any reason to not reuse the seal and stuff. Bearings look good. Alright. Let's clean this. Might have used a little bit much. Oh yeah, it's over there. I have a dead blow hammer. I don't know where it is. You know, there's no way for them to come back out because the bell housing will be there. And there's something about the dissimilar metals. If I ever did have to take this back off again, future Barry might appreciate it. Mostly just because I already have the anti-seize out. We're going to go ahead and lube this guy all up. You can use grease too, doesn't really matter. But I think it helps if everything slides together nice. Didn't see you there again. So it would appear, and I'm going to plead ignorance for some of this. We're getting a new one. Serendipitous, but this rattles. We're getting a new one. I can feel it. Tight, and then it's loose. Alright. We're going to run to the parts store, and we're going to try this all one more time. So, here's the truth. Apparently manuals are so unpopular now that no local parts store carries a throwout bearing. Now, this one, I don't 100% know is bad, but it is definitely sus. So, what I'm going to do, because I want to continue on, and I can't get a bearing until tomorrow, is this engine and trans has to come back out anyway, I'm pretty sure. So, I'm just going to accept that. We're going to set it in and continue working on our engine mounts. I'll put everything together. We'll put it to the engine. Make sure everything fits. That way if we need any more parts, we can order them. But the sad truth is everything's just going to have to come back out. And you know what? Sometimes them's just the brakes, you know? Right. So we gotta go down just a hair. Well, it's up. It's not exactly level. I mean, it's got a little to it, but it's, you know, it's off the ground. I don't think I did it. Well, I know I didn't do one of them. I tried to put 2 bolts in these holes to kind of draw it together, but it appears that this one is completely stripped, and this one still has a bolt in it. So we will deal with that as well. And I'm not really keen on that. We'll leave it like that for now. But I think there should be way more adjustment in that. Like, that should be tight. And I don't see where I'm missing any pieces. But, alright. Now comes the even more fun part. Like I said, we're going to try to pick it up to about here. We'll give it a little pitch downwards. And then my goal is to actually roll the Jeep under it. And, you know, just move this as little as possible because it is heavy. not high enough. Holy crap. Down just a hair. Oop. All right. Oh boy. Oh boy. You get the fuck out of there. What the heck? Alright, stay there. Oh boy, this may not be enough. might not be enough. That went. I need like another 6 inches. Sorry, somewhere in there my battery died. But here's the situation report. First off, my fancy new battery box is absolutely crashing into the turbo. So we gotta take that out. And probably rethink that whole thing. It's just not gonna work. Which is unfortunate, but that's what happens. Second thing is, we're completely racked out here. I can't push this any further without, like, even if I took this bumper off, I still have this cross member, and that's just not going to work. So my options are this. Go get the tractor, in which case it'll be easier to maneuver a little bit, but almost too easy, especially by myself. So I'm going to go with option B. If you can see, my oil pan is clear. It's already got a dent in it. I'm not too worried about it, but I'm going to sling my transmission jack under it and then pick up on it, and then hopefully with the 2 jacks I should be able to roll it backwards. That's my hope. Once I get the jack on, I'm going to hook this back up to just this front one. So that way, if everything goes south, I didn't die. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what we're looking at. That's where we are. That's what we got to do. All right? Okay, let's get this out of here first, and then we'll go from there. without getting under it. See if it'll go back. Ooh. And it sits back in there further than I thought it would. I took a guess that the mounts would be up here. Boy, was I wrong. So, it might look like the same day, but it is not. This is actually the next day, and while it's been a struggle, it's in there temporary like. By temporary I mean the mounts are where I think they're gonna live. They need welded the rest of the way. I cooked my ground clamp, and I'm gonna go over a few things. There's still some more measurements I want to make sure of. What's nice is with these mounts, if you can see, they're slotted, so I can shift this left to right and up and down slightly, but we're about as high as I think we're gonna go. But let's talk about the first thing. If you notice, we're at about a 5-degree tilt, and there's a reason for that. You have to, like, this engine was never intended for this vehicle, and it was never intended for the transmission it's got. So let's recap why it's like that. Alright, and that reason is the transmission mount. The transmission is mounted as close to exactly square as original as I possibly could get it. And that was, I thought, the more important goal. Rather than keeping the engine exactly square, keeping the transmission square would help eliminate driveline vibration, noises, U-joints being unhappy and whatnot. And I think that's important. Now, I'm going to check pinion angle, but honestly, there's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do for it, and the drive shaft is exceedingly short. Like, I don't know if you worked on many Jeeps, but it's like 1.5 feet long, so it shouldn't actually be that critical, as opposed to some other vehicles. But I do believe, I'm going to take back some of the words I said, that this transmission might be staying, like, it might be mounted in here forever, permanently now. Alright. Okay, let's go up and explain some more things. Alright, so you also might be noticing that the engine is a lot further from the frame on the driver's side than the passenger side. And the reason for that is to get the shifter somewhat close. If I moved it too much further over, it was starting to crash into here. And for right now, I think making the shift machine, as Derek would say, work, which it seems to. I mean, it gets really close to here, but it's not hitting. Is a little more important than having the engine in there exactly tuned square. Like I said, I can move it over. That is a thing that I can do. But for right now, I think this is where it needs to be to live in here. Now for the last thing, it involves the guy. That guy right there. With it on, as is, I run into that problem. It is hitting, honestly, right about here. Oh, maybe a little forward. Right about here on that center post. Now, I have a couple options. First off, I have a new hood. This isn't necessarily the hood I'm going with, but I could cut a piece out of this center brace, and that might help. I don't think it would help tremendously, but I can also take, and there's a little room to cut out some of this, maybe even put a 90-degree boot on. That might be an option. We'll play with that. I want to see how much room I have between the top of this and here with the hood shut. I haven't quite got it, but if we take it off completely, and shut the hood. Sorry, I'm moving kind of jerky like, but I'm trying to keep we've actually got quite a good bit of room. You can see right over the top of the engine there. Actually, it might be better from the other side. Well, let me go to the other side. Yeah, you can see real plainly from the other side, we actually have quite a bit of room. So, I'm going to ponder that for a little bit while I try to figure out what I'm going to do. The other thing is, unfortunately, where is it? That fancy painted up thing's going to have to become unpainted, because there is no way that that battery mount, oop, I can't open the hood with one hand. There's no way that that battery mount is going to fit where that turbo is without rotating it or something. So I'm going to have to figure something out there. I haven't quite gotten that figured out yet, but it's in there. And I'm pulling the engine back out. I got to finish weld in my mounts, give the frame a quick coat of paint, and then, like I said, drill and tap the bell housing bolts that are broke off, and change the, oh, what's that stupid thing called? Throwout bearing and shift fork, just because. Only changing the shift fork just because. Yeah, it's in there. Alright, I'll update you as I go. It's been a lot of work to this point. Sorry. In case you're curious which route I took. Yeah, it's just, it was going to be too hard to leave it in. And there's a lot of other stuff I could do in here, out here. And it'd be a lot easier to get back together. But I'm going to use the bell housing as kind of a guide. And we're going to try to drill at least one of those bolts out. I need like a, well, this one's stripped. That one, we're going to try to get a bolt in, or may try to extract it first. I don't know if it broke when you were tightening it or loosening it, but either way, I just don't think 4 bolts is enough. 6 sounds better. Alright. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this is the bell housing that was in the bread truck that this came out of originally, so like that's why it all should fit. Alright, okie dokie. So we're going to start off with a 3/8 bit, and that's just to find center in the hole. And honestly, I do expect to put a helicoil in these. Like, it's just given. There is no not doing it. Yeah, we got center pretty well marked. Go step down a couple sides. Alright. Yeah, we look to be about on center. Helps to have really good drill bit. Take frequent breaks. Alright. Let's get some lube on that real quick too. Alright, that's about as far as we're going to go with it attached. Let's detach it and see what we get. Got the hole drilled out. We're going to try our spiral flute extractor. Now if that doesn't work, we're just going to go to bigger drill bits and make this thing go away. If you never used one of these, I like the spiral flute ones because if they're not going well, you can just turn them the other way. Ha 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 ha! Gonna have to come over those gack threads at the end. But I do believe that I have achieved the mechanic's greatest success. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what victory looks like. It does look at the end like I got a little bit into the thread, but I'm going to say that's pretty good. Now, for this one, well, maybe there's some threads in there too. They're just a little deeper. don't need to do anything. I'm gonna take a little more investigating into this hole. And I'll let you know. You know? You know. Yeah, that's a win. So, I'm not sure how well this is going to turn up on camera. Matter of fact, as I'm holding this here, I can't see anything. But this hole that was stripped, there's only threads in the very end. So we're going to helicoil that one. This hole, which I did use, only has threads in the very end of it. And that's not the one that I took the broken bolt out. It's over here. And honestly, I would run that one. But, you know, that one's good. And those two look good, that one and that one, but we're probably putting in at least 2, maybe 3 helicoils. I'm glad we caught this before it got too crazy. You know what I mean? Alright. So, this has been interesting, but I'm not finding any availability on this throwout bearing. However, I mean, I know it makes noise, it's being echoed by this, but what I found is, I think this bearing was just dry. I greased it. I actually forced grease into it. And the hard spot I was feeling is completely gone. And to be honest with you, it's not like I'm putting a new clutch in anyway. So I'm going to throw it back together. My goal is to get this to the point where it's ready to go back into there. And this is ready to accept it tonight. So I got a little welding to do. Got to get all that put back together. You guys have seen me do most of it, so I'm not going to bother recording it. But again, that's how I tack my mounts in. So you guys can see, it's not perfect welds, but hey, they held. And I'm just going to finish zipping it. I'm probably going to take the top off of this guy just because, you know, it makes it easier to get in the way. They're up about as high as the frame. So I think it would take a lot of compression to get those arms to hit it. And if worse come to worse, I'll put a long arm kit on it. I don't see that as too big of a deal. People do that with their Jeeps all the time. But let's get to it. Well, they're welded up and in. And fully coated in Rust-Oleum semi-crappy black. Kind of went a little overboard, but that'll be alright. It's mostly just for rust proofing. And we got this guy all together with 6 bolts over 4. And tomorrow I'm going to clean, because holy wow. We're also going to put on that B&M shifter. The problem is, it didn't come with any directions. I get it, the internet exists and stuff, but sometimes it's nice to have some printed directions. Anyway, once we get that set up, and we'll get the drive shaft kind of close by, because I'd like to put that on before I put the skid plate on. As we dive this thing down in, I'm going to be hooking up all the wires that I can figure out where they go. I hope. And we'll leave that on the transmission jack. So my idea is to pick it up, stab it in. As it's getting stabbed in, we'll pick it up. We'll get the transmission jack, get those holes lined up. Then it'll be like an up, back, back as it goes in. And once we get trans bolts kind of started and we get these bolts, we'll go around, tighten everything up, and then that's where it'll live for the rest of forever, or at least until I sell it. Tell you what, I'm not gonna say this Jeep will have a Cummins in it, that this Jeep will never have another engine, but won't be while I own it. This has been a booger. Holy cow. We're getting close. We're still a long way away. Alright, done. Alright, woes for transferring from an AX15 to a NV3550. This is the reverse switch for the for the AX15. This switch has two pins that connect to this connector in the wiring harness, and they go together kind of nice. Now I don't have the connector on the NV3550, but it has, instead of these two straight pins with the round pins on this side, it has just the opposite, where these are round and these were evidently pins on the original wiring harness. So I went to Napa and I just must have threw the box away. Give me 1 second. Sorry, throwing the box away was kind of instinctive, but right there's the part number. And I purchased this plug, which plugs in, and I'm going to just connect it into the wiring harness. It really shouldn't matter. It's only a 2-wire harness, so positive to negative, negative to positive. It doesn't really matter because all the switch does is provide continuity. So when you hit it, all it does is let current travel from one side to the other and vice versa. So it's really not polarity sensitive. But I'm going to go ahead and connect these up and then keep on moving. Alright, I did have a jack stand under this, but I'm getting ready to put the skid plate back on, so it's back under the jack. But to give you an idea how this all looks, your little disc, does go, and my light died.